There was about a 90-minute layover. Flew into New York and then from New York to Raleigh, but the flight was delayed going out. Well, actually, we were already boarded, and the captain comes on the mic and he says, "There's been a ground stop at LaGuardia," which means no planes in or out. So, okay, we're thinking, well, maybe we'll get out of here. And they said they'd be delayed until 7 or 7:02 or something. Not too bad. There's still 20 minutes of leeway between the two, and getting a little nervous, but it's all right. We didn't get off the ground until after 8. That's more than 2 hours delayed. And we were expected to get into New York at like 9:10 or something. And I'm looking, my flight had been delayed too, the outgoing flight. It was delayed to like 9:20. Again, I'm still sweating bullets. There's like a 10-minute window. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'll be landing about the same time I got to take off. Well, we landed actually ahead of schedule at like 9:05, and I'm like, yes, well, I'm going to make it. But no, there is a huge plane blocking us. So much air traffic coming in that, like 100 yards from the gate, it's not like you can pull over and go around the plane in front of you. So we didn't get up to the gate until after 9:30. And I'm like, oh Lord, please, please, please. And I'm looking and my flight was delayed to like 9:35 and it was already boarding. So I just took off, did like the OJ Simpson style, running through the airport. You young folks that are watching us today, if you do not understand that reference, go Google it. It's hilarious. OJ Simpson running through the airport for I think it was a Hertz commercial or something. But anyway, as I was arriving, the people are boarding. I was one of the last ones to board. I looked again at my phone and they delayed the flight one more time to 9:45. So thank God I made it on the plane on time because I did not want to spend a night at the airport. Well, I got home safe and sound. It was close to 1 o'clock in the morning by the time I uh, got to my house and everything. And my luggage did not make it. My luggage was in Virginia. They told me it'd be on the next plane as quickly as possible the next morning, which was Saturday, 9 or 9:30 or something. I said, ma'am, I won't even be awake before 9:30 because it was already, almost 1 o'clock in the morning. So I was okay with that. But thank God everything worked out fine. I made it safe. But yeah, I was affected, but thankfully all the other dominoes fell into place. So I did not have to spend the night in the airport. Nor did I have to drive cross country like you did. Poor thing. Oh, I feel so bad for you, but I hope you had fun doing that anyway.
Of course I did. I try to have fun in everything I do. And for you,
There
I
you
always
go.
think of Home Alone, that moment where they're running through the airport trying to catch their flight. So either way,
Right.
it sounds like the holidays were a little crazy for everyone.
Yes. Yes, it was.
And aside from that, we had a great start to the new year. We had the annual Consumer Electronics Show here in Las Vegas. And CES is always just amazing looking at all the new technology that's coming out for the next year. And definitely a lot of new tech that is just mind blowing. So, a lot of smart mobility and a lot of robots, but definitely some interesting new innovations that were featured at the show.
Cool.
And I will also be speaking and moderating at the IoT Evolution Expo coming up in February in Fort Lauderdale. So I'm looking forward to that. And even though sometimes it is a little difficult to get back in the swing of things after having time off for the holidays, it's always a great time to get in there and start the new year off right. And that's why we're going to be talking today about New Year, New Mindset.
There you
And how
go.
do you feel about the new year, Dr. Joe?
Well, Tiffany, excuse me. The new year is a great time. Okay. I see it as a time to recognize that you are starting off fresh, right? It's now 2023. You can't do anything about what's behind you, but you can certainly plan to look at what's in front of you with renewed hope, renewed optimism, and that kind of thing. I look at the new year as an opportunity to serve God, to serve my family, and serve my fellow man in a better way than I did last year. At least that's what I'm hoping. I see it as a time for personal growth, a time for self-reflection, a time to let go of the past and focus on the present and the future. as the Apostle Paul said in Philippians chapter 3, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. That's how I want to look at it. New beginnings, new opportunities, um, a new chance to make a positive impact. And more than that, strive for a better future. What do you think, Tiffany?
I love that, Dr. Joe, and I couldn't agree more. I always look at the new year as a chance for new opportunities. And of course, new challenges come along with those new
Yep.
opportunities, but you have to make the most of those as well. And I'm
Yes,
curious,
ma'am.
Dr. Joe, did you make any New Year's resolutions?
Oh, boy. Well, yes, I did. But rather than specific things, in a manner of speaking, I started thinking about choosing a key word or key concept for myself and let everything flow around that. My key word for 2023 is more. And that's it, just the word more. I want to learn more, do more, be more, and become more than I was in 2022. See, it's more than just making promises, right? It's having the commitment to take action on those promises. Uh, I think it all focuses or comes down to focusing on behavior than belief. All right, for instance, my belief might say, I want to lose 10 pounds, but my behavior might say, I want to stuff my face with cake, right? If you think about it, if that behavior wins out over the belief, well, then I'm not ever going to fulfill any New Year's resolution that has anything to do with getting healthier. All right. My behavior needs to back up my belief. My walk must match my talk. Okay? And that's the only way that I could ever hope to make progress on those or any resolution. So, behavior over belief every time. Yeah, have the belief, but also be sure to have the believer or the belief, the behavior to back up the belief. What New Year's resolutions have you made, Tiffany?
Well, Dr. Joe, my New Year's resolutions are usually the same. It's drink more water and exercise more.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, well, maybe I should narrow this down. Maybe I should put more of a timestamp on it and be more specific. Maybe it should be I need to drink 8 or 10 glasses of water and maybe exercise, what, 3, 5 times a week. But then I started thinking, are these resolutions or are these goals? And
Ooh.
so it can be difficult to discern whether we're making resolutions or goals. But either way, the new year is a great time to reflect on the pros and cons of the year before and some of the wins and the losses. And of course, to make new goals. So, how do you feel and how important is it to you to make new goals for the new year?
Wow. Great question, Tiffany. I absolutely agree with you. I think you hit the nail on the head when you use the word goal here. All right. Resolutions are great, but I think, like you said, goals are better. Okay. The way I see it, we talk about making resolutions, but what are our goals? All right. I think a resolution or when you resolve to do something, what are you doing? Well, you're making a statement, right, of something you want to do, something that you intend to do, right? Or else, if you're really serious about it, you are honestly making a commitment to change something, or at least to try to with a resolution. You say, I want to be healthier. I want to do better. I resolve to do better, whatever. There's nothing in the world wrong with that. It's a great start, but does it go far enough? Okay. On the other hand, when you're setting a goal, like you said, I believe that's going to go a whole lot further. It's going to go beyond making a resolution. Now, I suppose you can say goals are like the teeth or the claws of resolutions, you might say. A resolution is a general statement, whereas a goal, or at least the right kind of goal, should be a specific measurable outcome that you want to achieve. Like you were saying, specific. We can call goals the outgrowth of resolutions, the meat on the bones, the walls on the frame, whatever metaphor that you might want to think of. So, yes, setting goals and, for that matter, writing them down. Let's not forget that part, writing them down. That's essential. To that point, a recent study by the American Society of Training and Development found that people who set goals are 75% more likely to achieve them than those who don't. Furthermore, research by Dr. Gail Matthews, she's a psychology professor at the Dominican University, found that people who not only set goals, but also wrote them down, shared them with a friend, and set weekly updates to that friend were on the average of 33% more successful in achieving their stated goals than those who only formulated those goals but never took any of those other actions. All right. What about you, Tiffany? How do you see it?
Well, I definitely agree with all of the points that you made, Dr. Joe. And I love making goals for the new year. I like to envision where I'll be the next year at the same time and think about what needs to change to get me into that scenario that I painted a picture of in my mind. You can also make a vision board. A vision board is another great way to go about
Mm,
setting your goals for the new year and your vision for the new year. But I also like to make long term goals and consider how much I've worked towards those long term goals that I've had. Have they changed? Are they the same? And really evaluate that as well. And I like to consider what I want to accomplish and make a map of sorts of how I'm going to get there. And of course, I
sure.
love making lists. So that I'm a huge fan of writing things down and making lists, and definitely encourage everyone to do so. And I like to make, the yearly goals as well as monthly goals and even quarterly goals, sometimes even daily goals, and whatever works for you to really make those goals happen. And I also, again, love making lists to make all that possible. And just as important as setting those goals, it's important to measure those goals and follow
Right.
up and see how much you're working towards meeting those goals. And I also love astrology. And so for me, like the new moon and the full moon are great times to take account for where I'm at with meeting those goals and just kind of check in with myself. And I also think it's important to consider your why. Why are you interested in even achieving those goals in the first place? Because that's going to make you that
Yeah.
much more empowered to go and reach and achieve those goals. And lastly, I think that the new year creates this opportunity for change. And we can all admit that there's always a little room for improvement. And Dr. Joe, do you find it challenging when you have to evaluate yourself and look at some of
Hmm.
the ways that it could be improved? And do you have any advice for people that do find that challenging?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Tiffany, I again, I couldn't agree with you more. Again, you're hitting the nail on the head, right? The desire to improve, like you, Tiffany. I always want to look for ways to do things better today than I did them yesterday, and even better tomorrow. Okay, in a word, that's called innovation. At least that's part of innovation, and it doesn't have to be done just in the context of a business venture to be relevant. I could be innovative in my own life personally by simply refusing to be satisfied with the status quo. Renaissance philosopher and writer Machiavelli has been quoted as saying, "I'm not interested in preserving the status quo. I want to overthrow it." Yeah, I don't know if he actually said that or not, but here's my point. In one of my most popular keynotes is actually on this very topic that you're talking about. Um, as you can tell, it's a real passion of mine, you know. But regardless of who actually said that quote, I'm totally convinced that if I'm not innovating, I'm stagnating, right? It's either energize or fossilize. Yeah, I don't believe there's any middle ground here. But just because I view this as essential, it doesn't necessarily imply that I think it's easy. No, not at all. By no means. It is challenging, as you said. Definitely. Um, and I think that's part of the beauty of it all, Tiffany. See, that's what makes it worth it all. My dad used to say to me when I was a kid, "Si vale la pena, vale el esfuerzo." Now that's Spanish, but in English it means, loosely translated, if it's worth having, it's worth working for. So, to your point, the advice that I have for people who are looking for ways to improve upon their life and challenging themselves to do so, several things come to mind. Like you said, with the goals, right? setting some of those goals that we were talking about, like you said, both specific and measurable. Now, you and I both talked about what is called SMART goals. You remember that? Several months ago. That was developed in the early 80s by a guy named George Durant. There's several versions of what the letters in that acronym SMART stands for, but the general consensus goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Now, our viewers may recall, again, that we talked a bit about SMART goals in one of our earlier episodes. So I'm not going to go in any further detail on that. Our viewers can look that up on the website, on the YouTube channel, and view that earlier episode again. As all episodes of Mind2Mind are great. All right. So setting these types of goals, right? Those 5 words, SMART, it's going to make it easier to track your progress, and it'll make it easy for you to make adjustments as you go along. Okay, once you've set those smart goals, you need a plan of action to achieve those goals. Okay, start moving in that direction, right? That might include things like setting a schedule, looking for resources, or seeking support, help, whatever to make it happen. Okay, the next thing I'd advise is to encourage people to take small steps. Okay, like you were saying, the weekly, monthly, whatever goals. If you're not used to change, it can be quite overwhelming. So break those huge, overarching long term goals down into smaller, bite sized steps. Okay, and that'll keep you motivated and on track in the interim. Now, after that, I would say be persistent in your commitment to these goals. Keep to those lists that Tiffani writes down. Do it yourself. Stay after it each day, every day. Get into the habit of pushing yourself forward. Don't let up. And then, this is going to sound like a contradiction. I don't think it is, but be flexible. Be open to change. Um, be open to adjust your overall plan if you need to, because after all, things don't always go as planned. So, don't beat yourself up if there's some minor snafu, right? Be prepared to roll with the punches if you have to. Be prepared to adapt and figure out a new way to get to where you need to be. I'm reminded of the unofficial motto of the U.S. Marine Corps, not Semper Fi, that's the official one, but the unofficial motto, and it says, improvise, adapt, overcome. I love those words. Okay, as you continue to be flexible, adapt, and continue on your plan, the next thing I'd suggest, what is it? I don't know, 5, 6, whatever number we're on, you know, celebrate your successes. That is, as you progress, hey, pat yourself on the back. Give yourself some credit. Even though you may not be where you think you should be, if you're further along than what you were, you have made incremental progress. So celebrate that progress. It's going to keep you motivated and help you focus on what is still ahead of you. Lastly, I would strongly urge folks to not be afraid to reach out for help. Seek out support, help, accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not alone in this thing. And you'd be surprised as to how helpful it'll be to have someone to talk to and share your progress with. How do you see it, Tiffani?
Well, Dr. Joe, I'm so, so glad that you brought up SMART goals because I was also going to bring that up. And I
Yes.
just think that making sure that your goals are measurable, that they're attainable, and that they're timely are so crucial for success. And I
Right.
especially like the fact that you brought up being agile and, being adaptable. And you have to also be flexible because goals change, things change all the time. Just look at the way things are going. One day it's this way, the next day it's another way. Things are always changing. So you have to be flexible with whatever goals you put in place. And when it comes to looking at the areas within ourselves and our lives that could use improvement, of course, it can be a little rough to look at those things and maybe a little uncomfortable.
Hmm.
But with uncomfortability is growth. When you get in that, the zone where it makes you feel weird. And that's the zone where you're really going to blossom and you're going to grow and you're going to see the most improvement because you're getting through those uncomfortable parts of yourself. So I think that that's really key to your success. And also looking at some of the maybe mistakes that you made or things that you could have done differently, and then making sure you don't make the same mistake twice. because if you learn from your mistakes, then you're going to set yourself up for success again. And no one's perfect. Don't aim for perfection. Just aim for improvement and then you'll succeed. And so
Right.
those are a few things, and also baby steps. Don't think that you're going to be able to go from eating junk food to this super healthy diet overnight. Give yourself baby steps along the way so that you're not setting some totally unattainable goal for yourself that you're never going to meet, which leads to disappointment and a whole stream of other things that are not on the right path. So give yourself a break and make sure that you're looking at things from a realistic perspective. And last year I wanted to make sure that I had more time, and that was I was all more on time. So I set my clocks ahead a little bit. And guess what? It worked, Dr. Joe. I put the time for
Yes.
everything. So if you feel like you need to be more on time, I suggest setting your clocks ahead 5, 10 minutes, whatever works for you. But it's worked for me. So that's something that I would suggest for anybody that needs to improve being on time. And ultimately, the new year is a new chance to build a new mindset, one that's
Mm,
better than last year. And what
yeah.
advice do you have, Dr. Joe, for someone that wants to build a new mindset or improve their mindset?
New mindset. I like that. I like that a lot, Tiffany. You know, um, I'm glad you asked me that because creating a new mindset is no easy task. None of this is easy. It can be quite challenging for some people. It seems like pretty much everything we've talked about is challenging. I mean, that's the whole idea of a new year is to challenge yourself to go further, to go longer, to go hard, to do everything better than what you did before. It requires a shift in how a person thinks and behaves, right? Those old habits and patterns of thinking that have been ingrained into us over time, breaking away from those can be pretty tough. Additionally, changing one's mindset is often going to require facing difficult emotions and past experience. This can be pretty uncomfortable, as you said, and overwhelming. And maybe there's a lack of self-awareness. Maybe there aren't any clear goals or direction, or there may even be some negative or limiting beliefs that come into play here. Research conducted by Dr. Carol Dweck. She's Stanford University professor. This research suggests that people who work towards creating a new growth mindset tend to be more resilient and achieve more than those with a fixed, rigid mindset. She once said, it makes the difference between people who give up in the face of failure and those who are motivated by their failure and not to be defined by it. Let's face it, it can be pretty hard to change the way we think and act, right? Um, Especially when we're not even fully aware of the reasons why we think and act in certain ways. You ever wondered why people are so reticent to change? Well, besides all these other things you and I have mentioned, Tiffany, they might even have a fear of failure or a fear of rejection, right? Okay, say they make a change, it doesn't work out, they might just view it as a failure within themselves, possibly thinking that others are also going to view them in the same way, that is, as a failure. And that leaves a bad taste in a person's mouth, and it might keep people from taking the plunge and going for a change, as it were. So, for those who feel this way, I say embrace change. Don't shy away from it. Look at change and improvement as an opportunity, not a threat. Look at it as a means to get better rather than bitter. Don't just stand still. Don't just be satisfied with the status quo, as we were talking about earlier. Get out of the rut. Someone once said that a rut is nothing more than a grave with both ends knocked out of it. Hey, by contrast, we were built to change, to grow, to learn, to improve, to innovate. And see, doing this is going to open you up to new opportunities that you most definitely would have missed out on if you had stuck with the status quo. See, a new mindset, Tiffany, helps you be fluid and better able to adapt and navigate through the obstacles that change brings that drop into your path. The world, as you said, is constantly changing, and those who don't adapt to it, right, like the Marine Corps, improvise, adapt, and overcome, they might just find themselves struggling even more just to keep up. Well, not only with this new mindset is going to help you with your own personal well-being, you can also be an inspiration and an encouragement to others who might be struggling along the way. You will not only help increase your own confidence and self-esteem, but that of others as well. You will motivate them to take action and take positive action. Okay? You're going to improve relationships. When people feel valued and supported, well, think about it. They're going to form those deeper, stronger connections with others and even with you. You're going to stimulate creativity and innovation. You're going to have a positive impact in your community. Just think, because you took action and cultivated that new mindset and you were not afraid to share it and encourage somebody else, well, then, by the grace of God, you will have made someone else's life a little bit better off than what they were before. Hey, you never know what kind of an impact you are going to have on someone else. So, yes, absolutely. This is my advice for everybody watching us today. Go ahead, seek out that new mindset Tiffany's talking about. Go ahead, reach out to somebody else. Go ahead and live life to the fullest in 2023. That's my heart in this matter. Tiffany, back to you.
Well, I love what you said, Dr. Joe, and I firmly agree. And I just want to go ahead and enforce the whole concept of with a new mindset that it's learning. So pick up a new book, put yourself in new
Yes.
surroundings, expand your mind, expand your surroundings, try something new. And that's how you'll achieve this new mindset by challenging yourself, putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations, considering the uncomfortable and growing above it. And that you don't have to have the same mindset as everyone else. You create your mindset. It's your mind and you choose what your mindset is. So make it great,
Mhm.
make the year ahead great, and set some new goals.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Mind to mind. That's why it's called Mind to Mind.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Joe. And for all of you
My
joining
pleasure.
us, thank you. And we wish you the best in the year ahead. Thanks, Dr. Joe. Have a great
Yes,
day.
ma'am. You too. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.